real basic overview on a lot of these weapons. I'm sure a lot of you already know a lot about them, so we're just going to go through the basics and how it pertains especially to Rangers. It's kind of the focus of this one, at least for us right now. So let's start with the big boy, the one right off the top, the M1 Garand. We all know it was designed by Canadian John C. Garand. All right. Who's never taken one of these apart before? All of you, you never have?
Oh, never have, no.
No? Okay.
I was hoping
right.
to. Say what?
Now, the biggest thing that I want to talk about with the M1 Garand is just some things that are in the field manual and things to make you look a little bit more authentic World War II, because there's a lot of reenactorisms that we all fall into all the time. For me, I think one of them is when you charge the operating handle, pull it like this. By the manual, hold with 2 fingers, or back like that. Okay. Also, with ejecting the M block clip, the way that I like to do it, that I find is usually the most effective, instead of blowing your M block all over the ground, so you use the back of your hand back, and then you can use your thumb to hit the button. It's the least messy way to do it. I don't really want to load a live one in here right now, but for me, that's the easiest way to do the M1 Garand.
Yeah, if you don't know, there's a side button that you can pop your mag out, your end block clip out.
Right.
If you're not aware of that already.
It's surprising how many people don't know that. So, in case you didn't know, now you know. One thing, especially becoming more prolific these days, is talking about how to hold the rifle. Especially now with the era of tactical and AR-15s and everything, it's all kind of in us now to hold a rifle like this. Where in World War II, you would never really see anybody. Ready positions didn't exist in the 1940s. Most of the time, what was drilled in the guys' heads was port arms. Everything came from the port. When you did bayonet drills, your guards were always from like a modified port position. Okay? So when you would actually see combat footage of guys walking around with their rifles, they're not going to have it up on their shoulder. They're going to have it at some form of modified port. You'll see them like this, at most like that. In World War II, there was no firing while maneuvering, at least by the manual and by basic training. Everything was get in a position, get in behind cover, and start firing. It's that weird era where you're moving away from the 19th century and still moving into the 20th century. And so that's one of the biggest things, and I've been the biggest perpetrator of that as well, just like anybody else, to hold your rifle like this. So some type of port or stance like that is really more appropriate. As far as Rangers with the M1 Garand, it is the most ubiquitous weapon. You'll see it with officers, NCOs, and especially privates. One thing you see all the time, especially on D-Day, you watch the embarkation videos, there's a ton of grenade launchers. There's a ton of rifle grenades, and they're almost all the anti-tank grenades. You'll see guys with the tube, with a piece of rope tied around it, on their side. You'll see it in their packs, you'll see them all over. And you'll see them ready to go. Anything else for the M1 Garand?
How about
What's that?
the gas plug?
Oh.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. You might want to add, if you ever happen to come across one of these at a gun show, this is, or eBay or wherever, this is the tool that goes in the butt end of the Garand, and it's specifically designed to take the gas plug out. Right. You can strip the rifle so much easier if you have one of these. This is for cleaning, you know, the crud and the residue off everything.
These are getting hard to find. There's still a couple companies out there that I think they found a big lot of them, that you can still find these multi-tools. Even the earlier ones that have the little the metal tube on the end. But yeah, so there's 2 basic plugs that would go on the end of your rifle here. This is called the slotted screw. This is the early through end of the war screw, and this would not work with the grenade launcher. The ones where you see the X, which I think most of you guys probably have, are the ones that have the valve in it, so that this little nub right here can release some of the gases out of your rifle. Yeah. And thankfully, this nub is too big to fit the old school slotted screws. Unless you get, there's some offhand reproduction ones that they made them big for some reason, and that could blow your rifle out. So as far as Rangers, by D-Day, most of them I think would have had the X screw, because a ton of those were issued. And when these were issued with the X screw. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it came with the gas plug.
Came with the gas plug, so you can switch it out. Because, you know, how the Army works, if it fits in the numbers, you get issued it. So,
right.
Any questions about the M1 at all?
I got a weird one.
Yeah, what's that?
So, in like on YouTube and everything like that, it's the actual GI film is how they're loaded.
Okay.
And when they load it with the thumb down like this. But how's the but if you do that, there's a better chance of actually getting clear outside.
Well,
how were they actually taught to load it?
When your weapon's loaded, you're really not. The times you get Garand thumb is when the weapon is empty, because when you have all the cartridges in there, it's different when you got blanks because there's that big space up front.
But what would be the actual correct historical way to load it? You know, I'd always use basically my hands supported just as a case.
You would be.
Yeah, remember they're doing it all the time. They want rapid fire, you know. So they got really good. They're experts.
Yeah, go ahead and take a seat, guys. If it's comfortable for you. If not, I know people got bad knees, people got bad everything. No, so the historical way, you're gonna have the buttstock braced on your thigh. You're gonna put it in like you said. You're gonna use your thumb to press it in.
Okay.
Okay, and you're holding it back with the back of your hand here, okay?
Alright.
And then sometimes it'll go, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you gotta give it a little extra.
So you're saying that's the one that makes sense. I was just because I've seen a video where they're doing it like that, where they're not, but
I wouldn't be surprised. You mean where they're not even holding the back of the operating handle?
Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah.
Or are they holding the back of the op rod?
No, I said just
that.
I mean, it works because you're not gonna.
The thing is, when the bolt comes forward doing that, it's hitting the shell casing.
And not
Whereas
your
when it's
thumb.
empty, that's when you can really, because there's nothing there to kind of slow
Right.
it down.
Because they were in the prone, laying down, and they just went, you know, like that. And I
Right.
guess I could see how that would be a little bit more harder to hold it back.
If your weapon has ammo in it, the odds of you getting M1 thumb are very low. It's when it's empty. Right now, there's lots of space for your thumb and all the appendages you want to stick into it. So, also, locking bar sights are the standard for World War II. If that's something that you care about. So those, after the war, all M1s were retrofitted with the, was it TO85 sights?
Yeah, but here, just walking around. Yeah, if you've not seen the locking bar sights, like that.
one.
Yep, he's got a locking bar, but yep, he
One of
got a
those
locking
things
bar.
that
It's one of
looks-
those little things.
Very World War II, and when you get it and you start using it, you're like, I see why they switched these out. Anybody else have any questions on the M1 at all? Anything anybody wants to say? No?
Done good, sir.
All right. Now, the M1 carbine. For Rangers, M1 carbines were usually issued to officers and people on crew-served weapons. Especially on the 2nd Ranger Battalion, you're going to see a lot more people with the carbines because they're the primary guys going up the cliff, and we were the backup. Okay? For World War II carbines are a huge pain because there's about 9 variations for every little piece on this damn carbine. Biggest thing, flip sights, you see pretty much all the time for D-Day in Normandy, which is what we do. A lot of push button sights and a lot of high wood. If people don't know what high wood is, if you look at the operating handle, it's covered here by part of the wood on the lower stock. That's called high wood. And you see about half the carbines in Normandy have that. So It's weird. You see a lot of early war stuff, I think, because they were embarking for so long for D-Day. Carbine, 15-round magazine, pretty lightweight. Also, 2 rivets on the front are usually what's World War II. You have anything on the carbine at all?
No, I think we pretty much covered that. Yeah, the push button safety and
No bayonet lug on there.
no bayonet lug.
No bayonet lug.
Yep, that's if you got a carbine, you got the M3 knife. That was what the M3 knife was designed for.
Right.
But everybody could try to get a knife. Tried to get one.
Yeah, any weapon that wasn't an M1 Garand or a bayoneted weapon was issued an M3. And for Normandy, they got pretty knife crazy. So for Rangers, you'll see often like 2 bayonets, an M3 knife. They also got the switchblades. They got I hear that they got the stiletto MB42s or whatever, but I've never seen a picture of one. So take it for what it's worth. Now, an interesting thing, we all know about the airborne model of the carbine. There is one picture of a second Ranger, I want to say in Easy Company, with a folding stock carbine. So take that for what it's worth as well. When you really deep dive on the pictures of Rangers, they did a lot of strange stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and you normally don't see the magazine pouch on the buttstock.
No, there's no pictures of Rangers with magazine pouches on their buttstock for D-Day at all. Not that I've seen at all. Even
post D-Day.
Even post D-Day, I really don't see it very much. That being said, there's not a lot of combat footage of
Fifth Rangers. Yeah.
Especially 5th. Speaking of modifications, one thing you see near the Brittany campaign is a lot of guys modified their holsters. You'll see it either with the strap or without the strap like that. It's something that you kind of notice as a one-off, and then as you look at more and more pictures, it was very common. There's a picture of 4 guys lined up. They've all got homemade holster or homemade shoulder holsters with these cut down M1916s. So you see that after Normandy. Thompsons, the most ubiquitous Thompson you see usually with NCOs is the M1A1. There is video of a Ranger in, I think it's in October?
Brest?
At Brest. No, it's early. It's August in Brest, and he has what looks like a modified pistol grip attached to his Thompson like that. And it's kind of grainy, but if anybody's interested, I'll send the pictures over. But it's one of those weird things. They usually, when you look at an infantry unit, everything's by the book. But the Rangers, they mess with all of their stuff. Do you want to talk about the K98 and the P38?
Yeah, let's do the K98.
Yeah.
Yeah. As Rangers, this is probably the rifle that real Rangers most often came up against. I know as reenactors, you'll see a lot of MP40s, you'll see like G43s, you'll see like Sturmgewehrs, but this is the main backbone of the German army. Okay, so as guys who do German, this is the rifle that like 90% of the guys should be using, but everybody likes to have full auto or semi-auto. But this is the main rifle that we would be facing as Rangers. Like at D-Day, this was the #1 rifle. This is a 5-shot magazine, internal magazine. If you have a Springfield, 03 Springfields, they're based on the Mausers from World War I. But this is the main, like I said, battle rifle. So even as reenactors, if you go to tacticals, everybody is probably going to have at least an M1 in your squad. And it's really easy when you go up against Germans, because they will have like full auto like MG42s or full auto MP40s. It makes it seem like they outgun us, but really, even reenactors, most of them have one of these. Like, you guys outgun whatever position you're taking with M1s. Okay, everybody's gonna have semi-auto. They might have some full auto and they make a lot of noise, and it really wants you to keep your head down or not move around. But just remember, you guys outgun them. Okay, this is a fantastic rifle, but it's not an M1. Okay, with an M1, you got 8 shots, semi-auto, really fast reload. They got 5 shots, bolt action, a little bit slower because they have to actually take the rounds off the clip where you guys put the clip right in the rifle, and the rifle takes care of ejecting it for you when it's done with it. Okay, so keep that in mind at tacticals. You guys outgun them. Doesn't seem like it, because they have full auto, but there's not a lot of full autos over there. Okay? You got MP40?
Yep, I got MP40.
Yeah.
The MP40.
Did the U.S. government continue to pay royalties to Mauser through the war?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
read
World
that
War
somewhere.
One.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was World War One.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, because the Springfield was based on it.
Business doesn't stop just because there's a war on Wells.
It's the
Right.
inconvenience
Yeah.
of a war.
If you're gonna copyright, take somebody's copyright, okay, they're gonna charge you for it, even during a war. Business never stops, okay?
That's right. All right, this is the MP40. A lot of GIs call this the burp gun or the Schmeiser. Now, we all know after the fact that it's not the Schmeiser because that's all, it was just a manufacturer of the magazines. But they would see it on there and think that this is called Schmeiser. But since we're reenactors and gotta speak the parlance of the time, I like to call it a Schmeiser or a burp gun.
This has a nice rolls off the tongue,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fires 9mm, 32 round magazine. It's weighted a little bit better than Thompson.
Yeah, it's definitely, Thompson's left over from 19-teens.
Right, from the First World War.
Yeah, this was much more modern for its time.
Right, but it definitely doesn't feel like you could bash someone in the head with it, unlike a Thompson.
Right.
So do you have any questions about the MP40 at all?
What's the best way to hold it? I know you see a lot of people holding it by the neck, and people like to bitch about it.
There's two ways by the German manual to hold an MP40. And that's here. It's even got the little grip guys on it like this. Or make a ring with your fingers and hold it by the magazine well, and then just kind of hold it, have these loose. Those are the two textbook ways to do it. I know a lot of like the SS room MP40s seem to have like mag issues, so sometimes it's good to hold it and like hold it in essentially. But as far as the German way to shoot it, it would be like this or like that. Okay. A wartime MP40s would jam when you held it by the magazine. At least that's the story. Do you have anything else? Actually, the manual way to load it is to pull the charging handle first, put it into safe, enter the magazine, and then be good to go. So actually, the proper way is to charge it first, then put the magazine in.
Would those be? Would an infantry squad typically have one of those?
The German infantry squad, if they broke it down into 12 guys,
Okay.
and their squad leader would have an MP40.
Okay.
And a typical squad. You
Yeah.
can always find an anomaly or something, but a German squad had one of these.
Okay.
Their big weapon was the MG,
Right.
either a 34 or a 42. And everything in a German squad operated around what they thought was their best weapon. So they said their best weapon is their MG. Everybody else is there to support the MG. And that's backwards from the American way. Our squads would go out, and if you had a BAR or a 30 cal, it was there to support the infantry. Because we thought our best weapon was the M1. Okay?
Right.
So a German squad, their riflemen are there to support the MG. In an American squad, the MG is there to support the infantry guys, the riflemen. So
Right.
the American way of thinking is counterintuitive to the Germans. So they didn't put a lot of emphasis on the small arms. They said our MG, especially when they came out the 42, they're like, this is our best gun. We're going to use this. Everybody supports this. The riflemen, they're there to feed the MG. Carry ammo cans with you. Okay?
Right. This is almost considered a fancy pistol. From the European standpoint.
Yeah. Movies love to put them front and center because they're a cool gun. But the common infantry guy just had the K98.
Right.
Yeah. And they put their emphasis on marksmanship. Why do you need full auto if you got marksmanship? But the MG's there to do all the work. That's going to do the heavy lifting.
Right. That's why you end up with really advanced MG weapons for Germans and kind of like infantry rifles that are left over from World War I, and why the GIs end up with an advanced infantry rifle, but a machine gun left over essentially from World War I. So it's just whatever your arms emphasis is. So
Outside of the fort, I believe, right?
I guess one of the last ones we've got is the bazooka. The bazooka was used pretty heavily by the Rangers. You'll see them a lot on embarkation. You'll see guys with just a bazooka and nothing else. Later on, after D-Day, they would usually have a carbine or an M1 with their bazooka. Sometimes guys carried the ammo with it, some guys didn't. I've seen pictures of guys that have a haversack full of like 9 tubes of bazooka rockets, followed by a guy with a bazooka. This is the M1A1. There was a previous version called the M1, which has a additional pistol grip here, and it had so the rocket would actually connect internally, electronically to the rocket, but they often rusted, so they had to switch it over to a wire that would attach to one of these connections. For the bazooka, the bazooka rocket burns for approximately like 0.03 seconds, which means that by the time the rocket gets to about here, it's done burning. So by the time it comes out the front, all that's coming out is just the rocket, no flame. Okay? If you get blasted in the face, it's just from residual. Okay? This meant that this weapon was concealable. Theoretically, you could be in a wood line, and as long as the back of the rocket of the bazooka is concealed, you're not going to see anything come out the front. Okay? The most dangerous part, other than the rocket leaving, is the back of the bazooka.
I don't know how that's
okay.
Work.
So, even for reenactors, do you guys have a bazooka in your unit at all, or?
We used to.
What's that?
We used to.
Used to? How did you guys use to blanket jam it?
I don't know if we ever did.
Oh, it just had it?
We were going to.
Yeah, it was just there. We just waved it around in intimidation.
Anything like Estes rocket motor, but instead of it actually leaving, just put a little bit of black powder in front of it. So
No, Jeremy said that.
makes
She
it
has
smell
some.
just about it.
So,
Then you get in that
I don't know
weird
exactly what I'll
legality roll.
yeah, where if anything comes out the front,
Yeah.
then you get into like destructive
I just
device
want to see
territory.
it.
Yeah,
Everybody's
so essentially how
the biggest event.
Yeah, because I remember they were, Connor was talking about shooting stuff out of things at one point, and then someone's like, don't do it. Don't do it.
You like your freedom, so don't do it.
Right? Any questions about the bazooka at all? Anybody have questions about anything? We can do some firing demonstrations, or we're going to be having a tactical, a little skirmish here soon anyways. So.
Yeah, show them grenades real quick.
Yeah, grenades, absolutely. I forgot about that.
So everybody goes into surplus stores and sees they always have a big box of grenades. One of the things to look for is the shape of the grenade. Okay, so I have one World War II style and then one not World War II style. And at first you're like, wow, they look really similar. The big difference is the shape of what they call like the pineappling. Okay, the World War II ones are real flat. The post-World War II ones are kind of rounded. Okay, yeah, they're kind of bulbous. So if you look at, and the other thing to look at too is the spoons. The World War II ones have this kind of ridge on it. Post-war ones are smooth. Okay, and then if you look at like where the fuse is, the World War II ones have this kind of little peg, little post on the side. The post-war ones are smooth. So this one, okay, it's going to be a post-war one. This one is in World War II configuration. Okay, I'm just going to pass them around. And it's one of those things, once you kind of see like how World War II ones are flat, it really gives you something to look for if you're at like a, if there's a box of grenades, $5, whatever. You kind of dig through it. You can usually find the flat ones just kind of mixed in there. And it's not a big deal. Nobody's going to like ever call you out on an event if you have like the wrong kind. It's just one of those if you just want to up your game just a little bit. Or just for your own personal knowledge, just so you know. Okay? And there's a lot of vendors will kind of separate it for you. They'll usually charge a little bit more. And the spoons and the fuses, there's places make repros of those. If you just want to just add a little detail to your impression. So that's just kind of a fun fact for you. Okay? Alright, what else we got?
I think that's about
10 around.
Here, you expect you to run
It is around
500 yards across.
I think that's from Charlie's little demonstration.
Oh, yeah, okay. I wasn't sure.
I'm not so.
That's all I've got. You have
No, we
anything
can
more?
do some weapons
Talk about the
demos.
1911. I mean, it's, again, ubiquitous, but you know.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I can't figure out, for Rangers at least, how they were issued. I mean, you'll
Yeah.
see them for D-Day on
So yeah,
all
once you see
then
the
see 'em on
difference, you're like,
everything
oh
else.
yeah. So this is like World War II style.
Um,
And that's like post-war.
These are fake
So-
rounds, by the way.
Motor City and Lauer fell on the
This
same
is
day.
isn't even a real
And
1911.
I skipped Lauer from Motor City. And so the following year, I went back to 75.
The mine just went blank.
Lauer this year, not just Motor City.
Yeah,
And Motor City.
Dennis?
The doctor who
Well, this one
I
was
was
your
watching
airsoft.
the most was the one that
okay.
showed up.
So,
Is it legit for World War II to have the for the
Yeah,
mag
I
to have the
like,
lanyard?
I mean, yes and no. That's
My understanding that the
Yeah.
lanyards originally were kind of issued more for like cavalry guys. So when they were on their, if you're on a horse, it's a long way down. If you drop your sidearm, or like MPs would usually have the lanyard loop because if you get in a scuffle, they kind of with like drug
That
PIs,
is,
whatever, there's a fight to break and stuff up. You can kind of lose track of
that
your
is one
pistol.
thing
And the lanyard loops is on the mag.
Right, that's what I was
Okay.
wondering. So
Yeah, so those.
should you have one of those with your kit or not?
No, those
flat.
would, sometimes they would just get
Alright,
kind of
fine, well,
issued out, like they get returned to like the quartermaster or the armor. A lot of times they just, a mag's a mag. It's like, hey, we're supposed to issue this out with 3 mags, grab 3 mags. Okay, you may inadvertently get one, but it's nothing like you're supposed to get one. Does that make sense? Certain jobs in the military would be like, this is advantageous to have the lanyard, especially like older World War I, pre-war, where cavalry is still being used. Cavalry guys always want stuff attached because it's a long way down to try to get it back. Okay, especially if there's a lot of horses around, you're like, I don't want to get off the horse, and it's hard to get back up on your horse. Or like I said, a lot of military police, because they can get lost in a scuffle or something.
It had that funky safety, the handle safety.
Yeah, grip safety.
Grip
Yep.
safety. That I never saw another pistol that had the grip safety like that before.
There's a few out there, but not a lot. It's not the current issue. Like if you are into modern guns, a Springfield XD line of pistols, they have a grip safety.
it's also one of those like almost like watershed pistols where, you know, this is the first mass production of like a semi-automatic for the American Army. So there's going to be a lot of things on it that later on they're going to say that didn't work. So unnecessary.
They're also thinking, we want this gun. We got a lot of teenagers coming in the military. We're going to give them guns. We want them to be as safe as possible, you know?
Right.
So, because your common infantry guy, he's not a spy. He's not a quick draw McGraw kind of a situation where it's like, I got to be on my guard, you know, for quick draw kind of a thing. No part of World War II equipment lends itself to like quick draw or really modern tactics where it's really fast. None of it, the snaps, the cameras.
Right.
None of it is designed for like fast. They're more worried about safety. We don't want you shooting your own guys. We don't want you shooting your own foot, kind of a thing. So a lot of those are just designed extra safe because we're just kind of issuing this out to millions of people, kind of thing. So think of it that way. Safety first. You ever work around like young people, like teenagers? And you're giving them dangerous weapons? Think about that. I'm a high school teacher. I wouldn't want to give most of my students like, hey, here's some loaded handguns and rifles. Go have fun, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, something like that.
Same reason they should have a top secret security program.
Exactly. Let's see what happened. How well did that go? You know?
I don't know what Charlie has next on the schedule.
Next, I believe, is patrol tactics.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure when he's coming back.
Well, we can take 5 guys, get some water.
We do bazooka.
I tell you,
All right.
I would argue.
All right, Drew, you be my bazooka
You
guy.
have to
We're gonna try out. We're trying out. This works. One over here.
You're not threatening down much. Knows all
So,
Just behind the building.
I'm gonna use this for an example.
Yeah.
I don't have a rocket, unfortunately. So the proper way when you're dealing with the bazooka is you don't want to be anywhere behind this part. You don't want any of your hands or anything, especially not your face, okay? And that goes with loading the rocket. You never load it like this, or any way that if this rocket goes that way or that way, it's going to injure your hand. So you're going to hold it underhand like this. You're going to insert it into the weapon. It's going to have a wire. You're going to wrap it around. So the loading procedure is, he gets down, he's ready to load. He's going to tap me. Tap me, that goes ready to load. So then I load, and I'll load this. And when I'm loaded, I'm going to hit him on the helmet and say ready.
Ready.
And then he's going to shoot it off.
I'm going to take out that cannon right there.
Now in reenacting, especially if you have one of these, your main job if you're the loader is make sure there's nobody over there that's going to get hurt. They're airborne guys, so we won't worry too much about them.
They're used to it.
All right, you ready?
Yep, take
All right.
out that cannon.
That looked pretty cool.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it!
Hey! So, let's show, let's do one more thing, Drew. Let's show loading and prone.
Okay.
So go ahead and get prone. Alright. So what you're going to be doing, Drew, when you're prone, let me stand real quick.
You got it.
You're going to watch your body at a 45-degree angle to the bazooka. So, which means you're going to be like this. Okay, so that you want none of your body to be behind that bazooka. Now, as far as holding the bazooka, since that rocket burns out before it gets to here, you'll see photos of guys holding it either like this, or like this. There's no wrong way to do it. You're not going to burn your hand up here. You're not shooting that many rockets that quickly that you're going to burn your hand. So, go ahead. Bazooka. Yep. So then, if he is like that, I'm going to be perpendicular to him like this, okay? And wherever his bazooka moves, I move. So aim to the right. So I'm gonna crawl along with him like this. So I want no business to do at the end of that bazooka. And it's the same procedure. You'll tap me and you say ready to load. All right, loading. Load the bazooka, load it, ready to shoot. And then you shoot, okay? That is the textbook way to load and operate a bazooka. So, MP40 is usually shot. Let's see if it works. This thing sometimes gives me problems.
A little temperamental.
Yeah. Just so you know, you're going to hear some loud shots, okay? Go ahead and hold your ears, okay?
Well, I don't really want to be in front of the barrel.
Fire in the hole! What did I say? This is one of those done right armory ones. Apparently it wasn't done right. That's about right.
That's about right. No one's here, it worked perfect.
Exactly. Let me try.
Different mag.
Fire in the hole. Got 3 on that one. No, got. Anything else you guys want to see? No? All right.
Okay.
Why don't you guys take a 5? I'll hold it down.